Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, Jackie. Hey, Megan.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hey, Dan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Joel.
Hey, Joel, Jackie, long time no see.
I know.
So Jackie, what's the weather doing in Colorado?
Oh, it's beautiful and sunny and colorful. Yes.
Nice. Well, we have beautiful weather here in Northern California. In fact, we're gonna hit our heat spurt. This weekend is supposed to be 107 and I heard 109. It's always the way it goes here in NorCal. It's really calm and mild and then boom, 107. Here we go.
Man, I thought the weather, when we were in Gray Eagle, I thought the weather was spectacular.
Yeah. It was nice.
Hey, Jeff Sanchez.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Hey, Doug.
Morning, Don. How you
All
doing,
right,
Tom?
you guys, we're going to Patrick. Good to see you, Trevor. We'll get going here underway. Eric is just letting everybody in. And so Tom, I'll introduce Justin. We're going to have him talk about how to elevate your influence. And then he's going to allow me to put a little cap on that with how leadership affects influence. And then we'll have you do the upcoming events and announcements.
Awesome. Sounds great. I'm excited.
All right. So good morning, everybody. I'm Don Yoakum, and you are at the Atomic Team meeting. You guys I hope that you recall that we named it this because we were very influenced by James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It had a really meaningful impact on me personally. For most of my life, I've been a very goal-oriented individual, and that has seen me achieve some things of significance in my life. That being said, what James Clear brought to us was a phrase which resounds in my ears and head on a daily basis, which is that we will not rise to the level of our goals, but we will fall to the level of our system and process. And that has so impacted the way that I look at the achievement of my goals. And that is not to say, by the way, that I no longer have goals. I do, absolutely. You know, when a ship leaves port, it's important that they know their destination, okay? That being said, what James Clear was trying to help us to understand is that it is actually the system and process that's going to then manifest the achievement of that goal. And so that was a great insight, and I'm so grateful that he shared that with us. Of course, that book went on to become an international bestseller. Well, about 6 months ago, I was introduced to a gentleman, Justin Stoddart, who you're going to hear from today. He and I were speaking at the same event, which is kind of ironic because we essentially speak on the very same subject. He might mention something about that. I had the very good fortune of being able to go first in that case. Anyway, well, Justin had authored a book, it turns out, as well. And I'm going to tell you, his book, The Upstream Model, which, Justin, I'm going to ask you to just put that link in the chat, has had the kind of impact on me that Atomic Habits had. And there's something really specific within the book that caused that. And now Justin and I refer to it as his ladders of influence. And he talks about the different ways that we engage as salespeople and the influence that we will have based on how we show up. Well, I've been thinking about that through the lens of all of what we do, and it has dramatically impacted the way that I now approach my system and process, thanks James Clear, because of Justin's ladder of influence. And so, Justin, what I'd like for you to do is share with us these different levels of influence and how our team can use this knowledge to gain greater influence, therefore sales and return on their time and energy. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's funny, before the rest of you got on the call here today, Tom and Dawn were talking about when they were together this past week. I just want you to picture this because you see these guys as business icons, which they are. But they were talking about, they were out on a walk early one morning, and Tom looks over to the two, I think it was Steve McCarthy, I don't know if Steve's here, and Dawn, and said, "I'll race you guys to that stop sign." It's pretty funny to think about these grown, very mature men, extremely successful in business, with still an adolescent flair of like, you know what, I can beat you at a foot race.
That was Tom, by the way. It was not me. He's the troublemaker.
And although Don won, he's going to be limping here for a little bit because he hurt his leg. So anyway, incredible individuals to be around, not just from a business standpoint, but from a just a good human standpoint. So anyway, I'm excited to not only be here with you, but feel absolutely honored to be in business with Dawn through our company Pro Insight, and then have the opportunity to be in front of all of you. I will take you back. How long has it been? Almost 20 years. Has been since 20 years. I was a high-end home builder. I should say I'd been working for a high-end home builder and land developer, and he had taught me how to build a good home. We built luxury custom homes. At the time, it was kind of $1 to $3 million homes. And at that point, 20 years ago, that went a long way where I was building, and big, beautiful kind of mountain style homes. And we had a point in our relationship where I knew he was headed in a different direction. He wanted to become more and more of a land developer. I think the custom home client was driving him crazy. And it's like if you've ever built a custom home, it's custom for that reason. And so there are changes here and there and everywhere. He had assigned me to oversee that division of the company. I had maybe a temperament that was a little more patient than he did. And so I'm building out these homes. And finally, I realized like he's moving in a different direction. I'm going to go out on my own. So I had a heart to heart with him. I said, look, I can see where you're headed. Why don't you let me buy out this division of the company from you, and I'll start my own home building business. And he agreed. He'd almost felt guilty that he was still getting paid, and he had like never really came around anymore. And so he agreed that I bought that division of the business from him. So here I was now out as my very own general contractor, 25 years old at the time, pretty excited about life and all the prospects. And there was just one small thing that I had overlooked, which was that I was really good at building the home once the clients were in my lap. But this concept of where the clients came from, that they just didn't fall out of the ether anymore, which is kind of what they had been doing previously, because the guy that I'd worked for just had a network and he just kept directing people to me. And I discounted the fact. Now, maybe some of you that have been in real estate are like, man, I got my license. I know how to, I'll serve clients. I'll love on them more and better than anybody else out there. But oh yeah, how do I get the clients? Like, where does that come in, right? And so what we want to share with you today is the answer to that question, is that there's actually several right answers. And many of them will work. However, what Don and I want to share with you, that what we've learned together, and what I learned from an early phase as a home builder, and then entering in as an executive in a title company, how those same principles began to apply, and then how I began to teach them to real estate agents, and it began to work so well, I left to start my own coaching company. And now Don and I in partnership are really implementing these same principles. So I'm going to share my screen here really quickly. Let me do this if I can share. Looks like I can. Okay. I want to share with you just a slide from a larger presentation called the Pro Insight certification, which is really a certification in which we teach real estate agents and others how to take their professional network and turn it into a wealth advisory team in 30 days. So I'm just giving you here a quick little one slide from that will allow us to talk about today's principles. Zoom screen is still looking for itself. Okay, give me a quick sec here. Okay, can you guys see that okay? Okay, so this is what Dawn helped me to name the ladder of influence. So let me take you through my journey really quickly as a home builder and then as a title professional. And then we're going to turn this directly into how this impacts the way you get your customers. So there is one way to do it, which is tried and true. It's proven. It's a solicitor. Okay. Now, for me as a high-end home builder, it's a little bit difficult because I was 25, looked like I was probably 17. And I would love to look 17 again, but back then I did not want to look 17. I'm trying to convince millionaires to entrust several $1 million with me, and so it was less of a compliment back then. But the solicitor role, this is how I implemented this. I realized that my personal sphere, they were also 25. They were not building $1 million homes, right? So maybe with you realize like, okay, I've got a personal sphere, and either I've tapped them out or they're not selling at a level that I need to be selling, right? They're not going to provide me referrals. And so you have to look outside of that personal sphere. Okay. So one way to do that is to go engage in conversations with people that you don't know. Now, my attempt in doing this was with who I later had defined as an upstream partner, which in other words, for me, it was an architect, somebody who could open up lots of opportunities. So I stepped into that architect's office as a solicitor. I didn't have an appointment, and I began to talk at him about why I was a good option for him to refer me his clients. How do you think that worked? Like on a scale, like if you think it was a 5 out of 5 at work, give me a 5. If you feel like that was more like a 1 out of 5, give me a 1. Just put your hand up really quickly. The 1, where you at, Jeff? Anybody else want to vote? Out of 5, highly effective number 5. Less effective than 1. For those that were down towards the 1, you were right. Right? He wasn't mean to me, but he was brief, and I left, and I didn't hear from him again. Right? Surprise, surprise. I came to get something. I came to get referrals. Okay. Now, as my business became a little more established, I realized that there was maybe a better way, where maybe I would know these people in advance. Right? I would have a relationship in the industry with them. But even stepping into that architect's office as a vendor, even if he knew me, I was still showing up to get a referral. I was still there to get something. It wasn't until I realized the power of a warm introduction and how I entered into someone's life would drastically change the way that they interacted with me. So what I did is I concocted an introduction from someone who already had a lot of credibility. I talked to an interior designer. I told her how to introduce me that made me sound different and better than other builders. And that actually worked. I got an appointment with an architectural designer named Jared. He became a great referral partner of mine. Okay. So that concept right there changed everything. That all of a sudden I came into that conversation with Jared as an equal, as a peer. I did not come with my business cards to hand to him. I came with a notebook to take notes on what challenges he was having in his business and how I could help him. I didn't come to get referrals. I came to give referrals. You guys see the difference? The very distinct difference there in coming to promote myself versus coming to genuinely offer value to them. Okay. Then what I was able to do is from that meeting, I learned what his problems were. And then I was able to call within about 24 hours after that and say, Jared, I heard what you said about growing your architectural practice and some of the challenges you face. And I have an idea. I have somebody I would like you to meet. His name's Bruce. Here's what Bruce has done for my business. And here's how I think he might be a benefit to you. Are you okay if I make an introduction? Now, all of a sudden, the person who's able to feed me a lot of business is no longer trying to kind of stiff arm me because I'm coming to get referrals from them. Instead, they're welcoming me saying, oh my goodness, that's really valuable. Thank you. I'm now mentoring and leading him, right? If you, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel like how effective was that relationship? 5 being most effective. Put your hand up if you feel like on a scale of 1 to 5, that was closer to a 5 or down closer to a 1 again. I see some 5s. Anybody else? 5. Okay, great. So keep in mind that you might say that, hey, it's like those they're hard workers, they just solicit, they just go do it. And I'm saying I agree with that, and I commend that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying with just adding a little bit of strategy to this, that all that good effort, that hustle, if you just slow down for just a second, say, how can I get a warm introduction that sets me up to be a peer? And in that meeting as a peer, I extract information that allows me to circle back and be a mentor. Now, all of a sudden, they're eating out of my hand. They need me as opposed to them feeling like I really need them. Okay. So that's how this worked for me in the building industry. And it not only preserved, but it helped me to grow my building practice in significant ways. Now, enter into the title industry. I was recruited to help lead not the startup, but a new expansion of a large title company into a new market. We were launching into the area in which I live. And immediately, in fact, let me ask you this question. When a title company comes walking through your office, what comes to mind? Solicitor, vendor, peer? What do you guys think?
Solicitor.
Solicitor. Yeah. Okay.
Unless I know them, they're a vendor, if it's a known relationship, but otherwise solicitor.
Okay. So I was new in the industry. I was to them a solicitor. They already had this problem solved of being of having a title company. Okay. As soon as they knew me, right now I'm a vendor. But you see how I'm still trying there to get their business. And when somebody's trying to get something from you, what do? Do you welcome and embrace them and bring them in, or do you kind of push back a little bit? Right? You build a wall. Okay. So rather than that, what I did in the title industry is I established myself as a peer. Here's what I did. I found one high producing agent who I had a relationship with. I said, would you be willing if I were to put together a room of top producing agents just like you from all company? If I were to put them in a room and host a top agent mastermind, would you come? Yeah, I'd come. Awesome. Thank you very much. I then went to about 10 other top producing agents and said, I have this agent. I said, I'm doing a top agent mastermind. They're going to be agents like Debbie Lau is her name, incredible producer, incredible person. They're like, oh, Debbie's coming, I'll go. Now I've got two people. The third person, I said, I'm doing a top agent mastermind, agents like Debbie and like Rick. They're like, oh, wow, those are good agents. Yeah, I'll be there. So now all of a sudden I put together a mastermind of agents, and keep in mind, I wasn't the title professional to show up and tell you all about my title company and how my escrow officers were great and how our closings were smooth. They already had that. Solving a problem that they already have solved does not help anybody. So what I did instead is I sat at the table with them and listened and asked good questions about how do I uncover what their challenges are? How do I be a peer in this moment to where they see me as an equal? They're like, man, my title rep, I like them. They buy me stuff, right? They take me to lunch, or they're really good at the closing, but they don't have these kind of conversations with me. That was the goal of that. The second goal was to find out what their pain points were, so that then I could circle back 24 to 48 hours after that mastermind and say, you know what, I've been thinking about what you said, how you shared that this has been a challenge for you in your business, which, by the way, that was the agenda, which by design, it was so that I could extract what they needed. Then I'd follow up and say, I've got someone I want you to meet, or I have an idea on how we can take what this other agent at the mastermind was doing and apply that to your business. Can we meet? Do you think that me now scheduling that meeting to help solve their biggest problems from ideas that we collectively learned at that mastermind, would you take that meeting with that title professional? Like nod your head if you're like, yeah, I'd take that meeting. Right? It's a different approach. And so that's how I built my title business. Right? From that experience, then it led me into coaching real estate agents using this same model, right? And authoring a book about it. So Don, I don't know if that's what you were kind of experiences you were helping me to share, but hopefully everybody here can see that not only does this work in the B2B space, but we have the same option when we are, number one, building our actual client base, right? We can show up as a solicitor, as a vendor, or as a peer, even as a mentor leader. And also when we're building sales organizations, we can do the same thing. So anything else that you want to say?
So Justin, thank you for that. And so you guys, what we'd like to do now is, I'm the numbers guy. So you can imagine I'm armed with a few numbers for us to go over. Will you stop that share, Justin, so we can see everybody? Thank you. So what Justin has described is how he elevated his influence from solicitor to peer and ultimately to mentor when he began coaching the agents. And this is a perspective that we want you to be able to have. We are not saying that solicitation doesn't work. I'm here to tell you that if you make 100 calls a day, 5 days a week, basically time block 2 hours, 5 days a week, you'll make 2,000 calls in a month. You can sell 2 properties a month. Anybody want to debate that? Is that a reasonable deal? Randy Bird's in the house. Randy, when you're coaching clients call 100 people a day, 5 days a week, can they ring that register 2 times a month?
Yeah, it's indisputable. The numbers don't lie, and you could screw that up and it still works.
Yep. Okay. So that is a path. It works. It's a solicitor. Now I've had over 5,000 agents work for me in real estate brokerage. I can tell you from vast experience that there's roughly 2% of our industry that are willing to do that. Okay. And also I will tell you that the day that you decide to jump off that treadmill and not make those 100 calls, that spigot stops immediately. Okay. Now, a lot of us, thank you, Brian Buffini, Joe Stump, have been taught to work through our sphere of influence, our client database. And as many of you know, I coach on getting yourself to a place where you have 300 people for whom you are a real estate resource and realtor of choice. Okay, now, Justin and I have been debating the numbers on what the conversion rate is when you call. If you, your sphere of influence, your database. And for those of you familiar with The Golden Handoff by Nick Crowder, he says it's about 20-25 to 1. Okay, but Justin and I, and actually Justin made, what was it that you said this morning, Justin, that distinguished between how you go from 50 to 1 to 25 to 1 in your communication with your sphere?
So I think it's the vendor to peer, if that's what you're talking about, right? Vendors, if you have a vendor relationship with your client base, you call them and say, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. Do you know of anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, right? We've all been trained that. There's nothing wrong with that. Our clients aren't mad at us, but we're still showing up as a vendor. We're there to get a referral. Would everybody agree? Like, we're there to get a referral, right? Okay. Now, when you elevate to a peer level, you're not coming to get a referral. You're coming to give a referral. See the difference? To Don's point, you're a real estate resource. You're asking questions about what's happening in their life. Could be the Ford, right? Acronym, right? Which is, how's your family, right? How's your occupation? How's work? R stands for recreation, like what are you guys doing for fun? The D stands for dreams or goals, right? But in that, you're not doing that just to create friendship. You're doing that because you're looking for certain life events. You're looking for how you can give them a referral, how you can add value to them. Okay, so it's coming to get a referral versus coming to give a referral.
Yeah, and you might say, well, wait a sec, my clients don't really need referrals. Well, sometimes they do. Do you know the occupation of your clients? Right? And I think where you really want to think about this is in the context of, we say we want to be a real estate resource to become the realtor of choice. Okay, now, if we have 300 people for whom we are the realtor of choice and people move every 10 years, that is 30 sales a year. For one reason or another, you are not going to get every one of those sales, but you can get 2. And partly, by the way, because when those 30 people sell their homes, they don't tend to go homeless. So there's actually about 45 sales at stake, almost 4 a month in total. And we believe you can get 2 of them if you're coming to those relationships from a place of contribution as a resource to become the realtor of choice. So let's refresh on what our numbers were. Okay, if we come as a solicitor, it works. the translation is 1,000 to 1. In 1 month, I make 100 calls a day, 5 days a week, 2,000 calls in a month, and I get 2 sales. Option number 2 is I communicate with my sphere of influence, I establish rapport, and I try to extract a referral. Oh, by the way, do you have somebody that you know that will buy or sell? Okay, that's a 50 to 1 game. 20 times better, by the way, than solicitation, but still it's 50 to 1. If I come to those same relationships from a place of contribution, it moves to 25 to 1. Now, what Justin managed to do is ultimately elevate himself to mentor leader. He became a real estate coach. When you are coming from that place of influence, it's a 3 to 1 equation. Okay. Now, there's something that we all have at EXP that really blows my mind. And I just want you guys to write this down. I track the numbers, okay? I track the top 100 builders at EXP every single month. I can tell you what their organizational count is. I can tell you what their growth rate is. I can tell you their relationship from recruiting to organizational size. Here's a little interesting statistic. For the top 100 at EXP, when they recruited 1 agent, that translated to 51. For Sheila Fedron, it was 1 became 269. Very fortunate person that she recruited Brent Gove, baby. Okay, but in case you don't have the good fortune of recruiting a Brent Gove, I'm just telling you, the average is 51 to 1. Okay, but then what I did is I went and I said, okay, well, let's just look at Jay Kinder. Let's put Brent aside because he is absolutely like a double unicorn. Okay, but I said, okay, what does Jay Kinder's numbers tell us? Well, Jay has recruited 73 people. He has 73 FLAs, frontline active. And so he's been, by the way, he's been recruiting about 1.5 people a month for the 6 years he's been in the company. And he has netted, so because he's had some attrition, about 1 a month. He's been here about 73 months. What has that translated to? 8,794 agents. Okay, so Jay recruited 1 person and they translated it, they became 120. Okay, how did he do that? Because he not only showed up as a leader, a mentor leader, which is what Justin's scale gets you to, but he became a leader of leaders. He attracted the likes of Michael Reese, Curtis Johnson, Daniel Beard, Kyle Whistle. Okay, these are all leaders in their own right. Okay, now, then what I did is I took the 8,794 agents and I said, okay, well, let's divide that by 73. That's how I got my 120. And I said, well, how frequently are people in his organization selling? They sell 1 property a quarter. On average, Jay's people are selling 4 properties a month. So on a monthly basis, it's a factor of 0.33. So what that's saying is, get this, write this down. For every 1 person that Jay recruits, it causes 40 sales a month at EXP. 120 times 0.33 is 40. Okay, and because of Jay becoming a leader of leaders, his organization has grown to 8,794 people. Apply that same factor. Now, Jay is selling 2,902 properties per month. Okay, now, Jay used to be a prospector, by the way. Okay, but I'm here to tell you, you cannot prospect your way to 2,902 sales a month. Okay, so yes, that solicitation path works. It doesn't scale. And so if you're not one of those 2, and by the way, I solicited I told Justin the other day, before they changed the law, it wouldn't let us call before 8 o'clock. I was there at the office at 6:30, waking people up at 7. That's how Tom Davis and I met. Okay, but let's grow up, guys. Let's not make life so doggone hard. Let's elevate our influence so that we're coming from a place of contribution first, and then we become a leader. And then ultimately, we are so blessed with this opportunity at EXP, you can actually become a leader of leaders. All of those paths lead to property sales. The question is, how big of influence do you want to have? Justin, do you want to, we need to wrap. We're actually a couple minutes over. Do you want to give us a closing thought or statement?
I mean, I think you've said it really well, Don, is that there are a number of paths that work, right? What's the Henry David Thoreau quote? Is that the path less traveled? It's easier to just hustle, grind, and call. I don't know. It's something not easy, right? Easy thing is to do nothing. It's easy to start, but it makes it hard, right? What's easy to do now is hard later. What's hard to do now becomes easy later. And I think when we get our heads around that, like, sure, we can just get in and grind and it will work, right? But maybe some of this strategy of how do I enter into somebody's world? And you might be asking, okay, so what do I do? Like, what's the difference between what I do before and what I do now? Well, and Don, I'd invite your thoughts on this as well. But like the key takeaway that everybody should be thinking, number one, is that EXP gives you the ability, based on what Don just laid out here, right, to actually be a leader of leaders, right? There's an infrastructure already built, already in place, that gives you the ability to have thousands of transactions every month by you recruiting one person a month. Like, that's it. I mean, that's and you just stick with it, right? And as you then implement in the strategy of how do I take and actually get the influential people, the Daniel Beers of the world, right, that will actually grow this, you don't solicit into people like that, right? There are people all day long, whether from EXP or any other organization out there, that are cold calling their way, trying to get in there. And will it work? Maybe eventually, right? But there's a little bit of a gold rush right now, right? There's a little bit of some time sensitivity to this, that a better approach is to think, how do I get a warm introduction? How do I work with this group and show up on these calls and learn superior strategy so that I feel confident actually having a conversation of that kind of caliber? How do I get a warm introduction into them? And in that conversation, now how do I elevate myself to being a mentor and a leader to them by potentially introducing them to one of the leaders in this organization? That's one way to attract this or to implement this, I mean, starting right away. Don, any other thoughts from you on direct applicable application?
No, I mean, I think really you guys just choose what level of influence that you want to have in your life. And if you, and my closing message is just that if you don't want that to end with you, if you want to have a legacy, you're going to ultimately want to become a leader of leaders. Okay. But just first make the decision that you're going to come from a place of contribution. So Tom, let's let them know what else is coming up. Thank you, Justin.
All right. Thank you, Justin, Don. It's amazing. Talking about influence, we all need to influence our clients and our database. And we have one of the best marketers in the real estate business this Friday, Freedom Friday, Frank Klevitz from Viral Marketing. He is the #1 marketing pro for elite agents, and he's helped market hundreds and generate hundreds of millions of dollars in sales for real estate agents. So he's going to share the top 3 seller lead generation videos that you must send to your database now. So that's this Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Don't miss it. And also don't forget, talking about influence, one of the main things that's really helped me and Don and so many others with our success is going to events and connecting with others. Don't forget, we've got Build in San Antonio, Texas. It's the July 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's still some rooms. There's still some tickets. You got to be there. Make it happen. I guarantee you will elevate yourself, your life, your business, and invite at least one guest. So, hey, that's it, everyone. Thanks, Justin, Dawn. We'll see you all soon. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.